Hey everybody, Quilting Marine here. Okay, so we made it to this point. All right, we are moving, okay? So now we have our bind, all right? We've completed a bind. But I know you're like, hey, how did you get that far? Okay, we're gonna cover that real quick, all right? In the last video, we showed how we cut our material for our bind, all right? That's all it is, just 2.5 inches folded over, and that makes 1 1/4, okay? So, in order to get to that point, I got a little sample bind here, all right, that we've joined together. All right, so all you're gonna do with your bind is fold it over, that's it. And when you have when you have that join right there, it's not hard. You're just gonna fold it over, okay? I'm gonna put a little heat on there. For your total, all right, for your bind. And that's it. You just go along, put a little heat, press it down, and you have an actionable bind. Okay, and that's it. And then we're gonna move on to attaching it to our quilt. Now, the first thing I do before I start doing anything is I find in any part of the quilt, it doesn't matter. It could be the long end, it could be the short end. I try to find, I'll measure 1 foot. All right, 1 foot's distance, and I'll put a pin in. 1 pin here and 1 pin here. Okay, and that's where I'm going to start from and end. But when I start, okay, when I start my bind, I'm going to leave about a 10-inch piece of fabric because I'm going to need the end to be hanging off so that I can attach it to the other end. I used to quilt when I first started because I didn't know how to attach the two ends of the bind. So I would bind and then I would get here and it's crazy. All right. I would sew a straight line here and it was looking barbaric. Okay. So I invested in the bind tool, and the binding tool is this baby right here. All right. And we're going to be using this for the first time together. I watched the video that was done on Missouri Star Quilt Company. Jenny gave a description and a great video on how to use the binding tool. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and we're going to give this thing a run together. Okay, this will be the first time that I've binded a quilt with the 45s matching. Okay, I've never done that before, but we're going to give it a shot, and hopefully it doesn't fall apart. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get about 10 inches of fabric here. Let me get my favorite tool, my tape measure here, and find 10 inches. All right, get about 10 inches there. All right, so from this point, this is where I'll start my bind. All right, but remember, we're starting on the other side, okay? So this is where you start your bind at. On this side, okay? So the open end of the bind, all right, lines up with the edge of your sandwich, all right? So from here, I'm gonna start sewing. It'll be a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you gotta remember, you gotta make sure that you're getting all these layers to sandwich all together, okay? Because when you start missing, or if the bottom layer skips out, it's hard to come back and fix it, okay? So a good thing that I learned along the way was clipping, using clips, okay? Because there was a time where I was just like missing all the time, and I was going slow and I was peeking and looking, and I was still missing sometimes. So what I do is, there are these clips right here. They're great for keeping your materials all together until you get to where you're sewing, okay? So I just put a clip on there, and it's gonna hold all the layers. All right, so I'm just gonna line up my edges here. Hold on, let's do this right, so I don't look like a caveman doing this, okay? Got all my layers, put that clip, and that clip is really strong. You don't have to worry about the tension. That clip is strong, all right? That's not our mom's clips for hanging laundry. This is a pretty strong clip. And I throw them in like every maybe 6-7 inches. It depends. All right. So now when I'm sewing and I start, I'll know up to this point right here, they're all my layers together. I don't have to worry about them sliding apart. Okay. And I'll just clip along about every 6 or 7 inches or even 8 inches. It just depends on how you feel or how good you think your materials have lined up or your cuts are. All right, I want to make sure all 3 layers are together, and then my bind. Okay, then I'll just clip it. All right, and then when I get to the corner here, because this is obviously a short end, I'm gonna line up my edge here, my corner, because when you start sewing and you're coming down this, when you get to the end here, you've been moving material around and the layers become unaligned. And then when you get to the corner, you'll have this. This is the look you'll have. That's the look you'll have. And you're like, oh man, how do I get that? And it won't line up. So I started using clips and that went away. And don't ask me how to explain it scientifically, because I can't. I could tell you how to range a rifle in, but I can't tell you how that works, okay? All right, so clip. Then I'll put another one here because we're going to work a corner here. I'm going to show you how we're going to bind the corner, okay? So when I start sewing, it'll be on this side that I start. And remember, right here is where I'm going to start my sewing. And I'm just going to work my way down. All right, 1/4 inch. Because once we get done with that, once we get our 1/4 inch seam, we're going to roll this around, all right? Not with the clips on it. We'll pull the clips off, obviously, and we'll roll it around, and then we'll stitch right on this, all right? Now, there are techniques where people, they'll hand stitch. It's a stitch. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called a blind stitch. I know somebody knows what it's called, but they sew under here and through the fabric, so you can't see it through the other side. But look, I make this for my family members, and they don't know any better, so I keep them fooled. So I just machine stitch right along the top. What I'll do is I'll pick a yellow thread so that it's not obvious, okay? That'll be my top thread, a yellow thread. All right, so we're just gonna take this to the machine and I'm gonna show you what it looks like to bind this baby. Okay, so we have our walking foot on, all right? We have our bind in place, all right? We got a couple clips. You don't need them, all right? You don't have to have them, all right? It's just a luxury that I took advantage of when my wife wasn't looking. I bought some clips, okay? But they help, and for somebody like me who's really still, I consider new at this, any kind of help that I get, I'm appreciative of, okay? So we got our walking foot on, and we're gonna do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, all right? And I use my clips to keep me on point and aligned, all right? And it's pretty straightforward, okay? I'm gonna start here. And as you see, when I get to a clip, just pull it off, and we keep on going, okay? Take your time, all right? Don't rush through this. Because when I would build quilts, they were huge. So when I got to this point, there was a time when I was like, oh man, it's almost over. I'm getting close to the end. And this is where I made the most mistakes, okay? I would do all this work in building my quilt, and then I would get impatient at the end, and it would go off the road real quick, okay? So remember, we want all 3 layers and our bind sewn through, okay? Get to a clip, all right? It could be pretty monotonous, but it helps. It helps me. Just gonna do a little cheating here. Move this clip down just a little bit, okay? This is where stuff starts getting a little weird, okay? All right. Okay, so we're gonna do a corner here. And this corner credit goes to Crafty Gemini again, okay? She's a great teacher. So when I get to, because we have to bind our corner, okay? So when I get about 1/4 of an inch to the end of the corner, so when I get to the quarter, to like the corner right here, about 1/4 of an inch right here, I'm gonna angle off, okay? So I'm gonna show you how that looks. All right, here we go. I get to about here. I'm gonna put my needle down. I'm gonna raise my walking foot, and I'm gonna angle my quilt to the corner. See the corner? All right, that's the line we want to come down, okay? I'm gonna angle to the corner. All right, about there. Put my foot down. And we're just gonna stitch right off the corner as best you could, okay? It took me a little while to get this in. Excuse me if I get quiet here. Right off the edge. Foot up. Pull that out, and we're gonna cut that, okay? Now you see that angle that we just took off the edge? All right, so real easy. This is what we're gonna do. Look at this. It's gonna be real easy. We're just gonna fold this up. All right, I'm just gonna align this edge up. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough for you, but you see how I folded that up? Let me do it again. It was going like this, and we angled off, okay? Now we're just gonna fold that up, all right, to the top edge, all right? So this fold, the edge of this fold up here should be with the top edge of your bind, all right? Make it as straight as possible, but it's okay. And we're going right back into the machine, all right? All right, we're going right back in. Now, what you want to pay attention to is, remember, you went off in that little angle right there, right? So we're going to come back on in that same angle, but while this is folded, okay? And with the walking foot, you can do this, all right? So I'm going to put this angle in just like that, the point. And I'm just going to come straight in. All right, that's not straight. Remember when we joined the two ends together of the bind, and this is my corner? This is the angle I want to come in. I want to come in at this angle right here, okay? But I'm not coming in far, okay? I'm just coming in about 1/4 inch distance so I can come this way, all right? Here we go. Let's give this a shot here. All right. Now let me put my needle down. Lift up my foot, pivot. All right, and this is off just a little bit. Maybe I came in just a little too far, but it's okay. All right, because if you see where my walking foot is, and look at this distance over here. That's not 1/4 inch, but we'll work it. It's okay. No big deal. No big deal. All right, so now that we've done that, what I do is I throw some clips on. All right, let's not lose sight of what we need to be doing, and we're binding, okay? Now that I'm angled off in this way, I'm just gonna come back a little bit. Just gonna come back just a little bit. So that means I have to come back just a little. All right, here we go. We are ready. All right, so later on you'll see what that turn did. Okay, so that's how we do a corner. That's how we bind to a corner, go around the corner, and we're gonna keep on going. We're gonna do 3 more corners just like that. and we'll see what the other side, or we'll turn it over and we'll see what it looks like from the other side. Let's clip a little more here. Okay, so we made it to a corner. All right. I have my machine set in needle down mode, so when I get to the quarter of an inch from the edge of the corner, I'll stop, and I want to be able to pivot from there. Okay, so we're gonna work our way to the corner. About a quarter of an inch. All right, I'm gonna lift up and pivot to the corner, so I'm sewing straight off the corner. All right, see the edge of the corner right there? That's where we want to sew to. All right, so it's gonna angle this in a way where I know I'm gonna hit that. I'm gonna put my needle down, and then we're just gonna go right off the edge. But I'm gonna go into needle up, and we're gonna go right off the edge here. Pull out of there. Okay, so we went off the edge. Now we're just gonna pivot we're gonna pivot our bind up. Okay, just like that. Just like that. That's the look we want. Let me hang and see if I can't get this to stay there for a minute. See, that's what we want the corner to look like before we start sewing again. Okay. All right, so we're coming right back on in the opposite direction. All right. Put the edge of the fabric in there. All right, so now if you have like a high loft and it's really thick, there's a technique you can use to help the machine gather, or the feed dogs to pull your fabric from underneath, because you're not feeding enough under. Okay. Let's give that a try right now. Okay, in case you're having trouble with that. All right, this is like a test strip that I use to test out stitches and stuff like that. And what I'll do is I'll put that on first. All right, just to start to get the feed dogs moving. Okay. And then I'll just line up with the edge, get it going, and the feed dogs will just pull through. See that? And we're just going straight to the inside. We're not going far. We're just going a quarter of an inch. I'm gonna put my needle down. Put my needle down. Lift up. Pivot. All right, don't worry about that, because we're gonna cut that off with scissors later. We just needed a guide to get onto our layers of fabric and bind. Okay. Foot down, and we're off. Quarter inch all the way around. Okay. I'm using my clips. I'm starting to get really I'm starting to like these really. These clips keep everything gathered up. They keep me straight. I haven't come off yet. I think that also is a patience thing, because I get to this point and I'm like, oh yeah, I get to start another quilt. But then I'll be like, oh no, I just tore this quilt up. Okay. Now you see all right, I don't know if you can see, but you see how this little puffiness right here? When you're not using the clips, you get that all the time. And then these little puffs turn into puckers right when they go underneath the needle. And that's what the clips are helping me keep out of here, okay? It could be a little tiresome for those of you who are impatient like I am to move the clips all the time every time you get to a clip. But they're helping. They help me. All right, so when you have your bind, what I do is I usually have the bind itself going over my shoulder, all right? And then my sandwich or my quilt laying in my lap, and that's how I feed them together, okay? I rarely let them both hang. But now with the clips, you can let them both hang because it doesn't matter which direction they're coming from, all right? And we're off. All right, so from here, I'm just gonna finish off the quilt and then finish off the bind. And then when it gets time to bring the two ends together, we'll get back together and I'll show you how we do that. All right, everybody, so we've binded. All right, we put our bind on. We went all the way around. We knocked down the corners. All right, so remember when we started to put our bind on, we wanted to leave that 1 foot opening, right? Because we need to connect our bind, all right? And if I get a chance, I'll show you some of the horribleness that I've done in the past, okay? This is what I used to do. I used to put them inside each other right there, and then I would stitch across this line, all right? But, you know, I want to get better at this. I want to learn. So I saw a video, and Missouri Star Quilt Company, Jenny gave a video. She did a video on this, the binding tool. And I was like, man, that's incredible. It didn't look like rocket science. So this is going to be our first time using it together. All right. So from what I gathered, this is how you use it. All right. Make sure you have at least 10 inches to work with. Okay. 10 inches of leftover bind that you're going to have to use. All right. You're going to be cutting some of it off, but you need that much to work within the 12 inches of distance that you left. Okay. So from what I gather, you put you always leave the writing up. The writing always stays up, all right? The printed side is always up. So you put this in right here in the corner. I guess you bring your fabric over, and there's a line right here, a tick line, all right? So we're gonna mark that tick line on our fabric. Okay, then we're gonna open it up, and we're gonna draw a line straight across. And from that line is where we will cut. I'm guessing, I'm hoping. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Now on this side, what we're doing is the same thing, laying it across. All right. We're gonna mark that line. I'm gonna use a actual fabric pen because that grease pencil is horrible. All right. Fabric pen right here. This is my tick mark right here. I'm gonna open it up. Draw my line across from here. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, but instead of cutting like this, like I did on that side, you cut from this tick mark right here, the A. That's where you're going to cut from. Okay? I'm going to do our cut. That is where we cut from. And then what we're going to do is we're going to right sides together sew this. All right? Let's give this a shot. Let's see how this goes. Could be a nightmare. All right. So this would be the challenging part, I would imagine. Right side's facing, right? Right side's facing. We'll put that like this. Wait. Right side's facing. Oh yeah. Okay, so this, all right. You see how these little edges, the dog ears that we nipped off on the cut? That's why. Because look how they match up. When you put it right side facing, see how the dog ear matches up with the edge of the other one? That makes sense. Okay? So let's make sure we're not. Okay, all right. So we're going to give this a sew. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the good old Singer. Okay? 1/4 inch seam allowance. And my Singer here. I still have my walking foot on, sorry. But we went straight from here. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a shot here. Okay, so it should pull. Look at that. All right, now we're talking. That's what I'm talking about. See how it pulled straight and along with the edge? No more nightmare edges, all right? That is awesome. I like that. Now we're talking. Now we are quilting officially. I'm an official quilter, everybody. Look at that. That is awesome. I like that. It's my first time doing that. My first time. Yes. All right. So now my quilts don't look like Iraqi military uniforms anymore. They actually look good. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this stitch here. Let me not get ahead of myself like I always do. Let me get my clips, put my clips in. All right, then we're gonna put my walking foot down here. The back stitch first. And then we're gonna close this thing down. Send a back stitch through. Okay. That is, I like that. That's awesome. That is so awesome. I like that. All right, here we go. Slide my clip down here. Just make sure our clip's on here. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is where it goes off the rails, usually for me. Alright, so all we're doing is we're finishing off that foot distance, that 1 foot distance that we needed to make our bind, or to attach our bind end to end. Look at that. Alright, we made it to the end. I'm going to back stitch here. Pull this baby out. Alright, so we have our bind on. Alright, Now it looks a little weird right there, but as you can see, this is where the attachment came in. And look, all that's left is the rollover, okay? We're about to finish this thing up. So what we're gonna do is, there's a couple of things we gotta do, all right? We're gonna be rolling this over because we're gonna be stitching along this edge right here, okay? Now, the initial stitch, the initial thread that I put through this was like a black and maroon, all right? Because it didn't matter because this is gonna be hidden. But now it matters. So I have to change my top thread to yellow. I wanna change my top thread to yellow because I don't want you to see this stitch on top when I bind, when I finish the bind, okay? When this is like sewn, all you're gonna see is it's sewn down. I mean, if you really pay attention, then you'll be able to see the yellow stitch, all right? And then we're gonna go around the corners, all right? So I'll show you what the corner looks like now. So we did this little 45-degree fold right here so that when we get to the corners on the other side, all we're doing is peeling it around. That's it. See that? So when a stitch comes up this way and I have the fabric rolled over this way, you'll see like a 45-degree angle in there. You see that? I don't know if you can see it or not, but you'll get the gist when we roll through there, okay? When we bend that corner, you'll see how it comes out, okay? All right, so we're gonna finish this thing off, I guess. Okay. All right, so those of you who are worried about that little cheat sheet that I used to get on there, that's all that is. You just get in there and cut that off. Okay. All right. So you can use your clips for that. All right. But when I come back, we'll start stitching. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll this over. And I'm going to clip it too. I'm going to clip on that side too, just like that, so it stays straight. And I sew right along that edge. But I need to change to a yellow thread. So when we come back, we'll start stitching. Okay, everyone, we went around. We've closed up and met the ends of our bind. All right, so we got our bind attached to one side of the quilt, right here. Okay, this is our bind. We got it on. All right. And next thing is we need to roll it around and do it on the other side, okay? So you can see where the stitch line is from where we put the bind on, right? See that stitch line in there? So all we're gonna do is just roll this thing over, right? And we're gonna stitch. That's where we're gonna stitch, right along this edge right here. Now there's a foot. I don't know where that thing went. There's a foot. It's higher on one side than it is on the other, and it just rides along the edge here. And you know, the bind stays under one side of it, and the other side just stays on the surface of the border. And I have no idea where I put it, and that's usually not like me. But we're just going to use our walking foot today, okay? So I'm just going to roll this over, then I'm going to clip it, okay? Because sometimes you'll have where this fabric, and you can trim that. I mean, there's no problem with trimming it. It's your quilt. Do what you would like, okay? But sometimes, though, you know, when you're rolled over, you see that? You'll have that. And you don't want that, okay? You want that all tucked up underneath there, okay? So what I'm going to be doing is on top here, I'm going to be using a yellow thread. And on the bottom, I'll be using a dark thread. Because you're going to see the thread on the other side. All right, so I'm not a professional. I just love to do it. I don't know what the professionals do to hide that. But, you know, this is going to somebody. I'm going to give this to a subscriber, okay? So, hopefully they're not too critique of my work. But what we'll do is going to stitch across here, and we're going to go all the way around, and I'm going to show you how we do our corners, okay? So, I've already got some of this clipped already and ready to go. And we're just going to start from here, okay? So let's position this baby in place. And we are going to shut this thing down here. All right. So I generally start in the middle, okay? And there's no rules to this. It's just how I do it. I mean, I could probably start at a corner, but I like to get my flow going from the middle first. All right, so remember your press your foot arm. You can raise it up to get underneath there, okay? Now, the 1/4 inch seam allowance thing, okay? So you're gonna barely be able to get that in. So you're gonna be going slow, all right? You're gonna go slow. Okay, so you're in here. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so pressure foot is down. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch here. Let me back stitch a couple here. And let's roll forward, all right? See what happens here. I'm gonna go slow here. All right, so before I used clips, I was holding this with my finger and then I would lose the guide. Like I'd hold it with my finger and then the edge would slide to the left or right, and it was getting weird on me. But the clips helped me stay in place. And they also help, with that tuck. Remember when I showed you tucking that fabric underneath? These clips help keep the guts of my bind staying in there, okay? I'm just gonna work our way down to the corner. Going down to the corner. We'll get some bread on the corner. There we go. All right. Take a couple of these off here. So we are rolling. All right, so if you look right here, you can see where it's gone through, right? You see that? And then on this side, you don't see because I'm using yellow thread. Now, if I use black thread, then you would obviously see that stitch line there. All right, and you gotta go slow, okay? You're getting close to the end, and you already got plans in your head about the next quilt. I know I do. I'm gonna be working on a nuclear blanket for my brother-in-law. And in case you don't know what a nuclear blanket is, yes, I made that term up. But it's a blanket I made out of I'm making out of a bunch of sweatshirts that I've cut up into squares, into blocks, and I'm just gonna stitch them together and make a blanket out of it for him. I have one that's made out of sweaters, and he loves that thing. And he's not gonna get mine. I'm gonna make him one. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and push on through. And when I get to the corner, well, I'm gonna show you how I finish the corner. I got some replies to the laser technique, and I really appreciate the comments, but yeah, it was something I just thought of, using a laser to help me stay aligned. But remember, you heard it here first, so if somebody creates it, hopefully we'll get some recognition for that. Okay, staying slow. And I'm hoping I explained this corner well enough for you to do your own corner. All right, I hope I teach this stuff the way I learn it. I learn stuff potato head style. You got to break it down to the bare basics, and then I'll get it. All right. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're nearing a corner, okay? So you remember on the other side how we were coming to a 1/4 inch and then we were going off? That was so we can get this fold. Look at that. Look at that little corner edge. That's awesome. Look, there was times when I first started quilting, when I made my grandson's first quilt, I didn't know anything about corners. I was just speeding through here like a mad racer. I'd go around this corner, then I'd stuff it into itself, and I'd stitch over it. It was ugly. I used zigzag stitches. It was ugly, but I loved it because it was for my grandson. And now I know better. Hopefully I'm going to teach better. Okay, so this is what I do. You see how the corner is in a 45 right here, right? So I'm going to stitch all the way to the end. And then I'm going to bring this back, and I'm going to start my stitch on that corner going down this way. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if we can make it look as easy as I'm trying to describe it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go all the way off. Okay, and from there, I'm just going to lift up, pull out, cut, and then I'm just going to fold this over. Okay, I'm going to fold that over. I don't know if you have enough light, if you can see that, but you see how that is? Don't worry about this. All right, let's worry about that now, because I'm sure that's going to worry some of you. It's worrying me. Let's cut this all the way down here. All right, all you Marines out there, yeah, this thing gets Irish. I have my wife IP it when I get done. And those of you who don't know what Irish IPs are, in Marines, we call IPs Irish pennants. They're the little strings that hang off. And they'll kill you in an inspection for having them, okay? All right, so this is what we do. We fold this over, just like that. Now, you see the little 45 degree in there? Now, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to stick a pin through here. Hold on here. Let's go. Let's make sure we go all the way in. And then up. All right, just to give me some help holding that 45 in there. I'm going to turn it around. All right, so remember, we're rolling this over. We got to get them guts in there, right? Make sure the guts are inside your bind. I'm going to clip it a couple of times because I'm going to need some help getting around this corner. All right. And then I just go down. I'm sure there's like 9,000 ways of doing this, but this is the way I do it. All right. This is the way I learned, or the way I thought I learned how to do it. Okay. And that's how I do a corner. And I'm sure there's someone out there that could probably even show me a better way to make this corner. But for right now, for a Marine who's been doing it for 2 years, this is how I do it. Okay, there's no rules to this. You gotta find your way. Hopefully you'll follow this way, but this is how I get my corners going. All right, so I'm gonna start here. Let's go ahead and get a stitch going. I'm gonna back stitch, okay, because it's a corner. It's the beginning of a stitch, and it's also in the same color, so camouflage is great. All right. Camouflage is great, but cover is better. All right, here we go. All right, now we're moving. All right, I'm cooking with grease here. Okay, so we're moving down here. You saw how I did that corner? All right, it's like watching me on a sport bike, amazing through a corner. All right, so I'm gonna just finish on down, okay? And I'll once I get to the next corner, we'll do that corner too, and we'll finish this thing off, okay? Be right back. Okay, so we're making it to another corner. So we're gonna cover a corner one more time. All right, so we're gonna take the stitch right to the edge of my 3 layers, okay? See the 3 layers right there? That's where I'm coming to. All right, I'm gonna throw a back stitch in real quick. Then we're just gonna lift up, pull that off there. All right, and then we're just gonna fold over, all right? Folding over, and you should see that 45-degree angle in there. See that crease? Okay, so with that crease, we're gonna need to pin that. All right, so I'm not an expert at pinning. Just try to avoid from stabbing myself. I would imagine probably this way would be the best way, but I'll probably just try that way. All right, I'm still learning too. Yeah, that's the best way. Okay. We're just gonna pivot it around. All right, we're gonna put our guts back inside of our bind. All right, and then we're gonna clip them. All right, so one thing about the clips, okay? There is a right way and a wrong way of using the clips. Look at that clip. See how it's got a flat side and a curved side? The curved side goes on top. All right, the curved side goes on top, or the color side. The color side is the side that goes over the top. All right, let's go ahead. You see that curve? See how the curve fits around the bind? And keeps the guts in there? It's just what we want. That's perfect right there. Okay, so we're gonna line this up here. Put this in here. Put our lever down. We are gonna stitch here. Okay. Let's do a stitch here. All right, let's back stitch a couple. All right, and we're off. Let's pull this off. Move it down a little bit. And that's how we do a corner. A corner on, well, that's the way I've learned how to do a corner, okay? So what we're gonna do is just gonna go ahead and finish this thing off. I'll show you the finished product before eyepiece, and we will be done with our baby dog face pinwheel quilt. All right, everyone, so we finished our baby quilt, all right? We got our bind put on, all right? Border, pinwheels, all right? It's quilted on the other side. And it's ready to ship out. So what we're gonna do is, my grandson has me to make his own quilts for him, so he has access to the quilt maker. So I'm just gonna give this away to one of you, one of my subscribers. I mean, you subscribe to the channel, you follow me making this quilt. I made it for you, especially for those new quilters. This is something that is easy to do. I love doing it, all right? It's my therapy, and I'm not going to keep it, so I'm going to give it to one of you, all right? Now, next project, all right? I debated because I was going to do like a scrap quilt because I love doing those, but we'll do that later. My next project is going to be the nuclear blanket, all right? So this is a nuclear blanket. I made this blanket out of sweaters that I got from, guess where? The Goodwill. Yes, the Goodwill, all right? I went there, I found out what the color of the day was, and whatever the color of the day at the Goodwill was, those were the sweaters I was grabbing. I cut the blocks out, I attached it to some interface, put them together. I threw, what is this, softy soft, fluffy fluff? Flannel, a flannel sheet, all right? You know what I mean when I say softy soft, fluffy fluff. All right, that's my new term for flannel. I can never remember flannel, so I can remember softy soft fluffy fluff though, okay? And we're gonna build one of these for my brother-in-law, all right? He loves this blanket, he wants it, he can't have it because this is my first nuclear blanket. The reason why I call it the nuclear blanket, because this thing will withstand a nuclear blast. You sleep with this thing, you're gonna lose 5 pounds. You're gonna be sweating, all right? This is something you definitely need in your go bag. We'll talk about go bags later, okay? We're gonna build his out of sweatshirts. I really appreciate you following me through the journey of this quilt. We're gonna journey on a big one, and we're gonna make a huge one, all right? Our next quilt after the nuclear blanket will probably be a king size, okay? So I can show you the headaches that come with making a big quilt like that on a small machine. Juki, if you're watching, okay? Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe. And remember, it's only fabric and it's only thread.